Hey, what needs a fresh start in your life? Did you make any New Year's resolutions that have dwindled and waned? That's what we're talking about today, a fresh beginning with Jesus. I'm Sarah Bowling, and we're doing a series on beginning with Jesus, and we've been looking at the fishermen who followed Jesus. Jesus intentionally chose a team as some of his core followers. Then we've been looking at Peter, and last week we looked at Jesus coming to Peter's house and healing his mother-in-law. For some people, that would be like a curse, right? Jesus heals your mother-in-law. You're like, oh man, now she's up and at him. She's raring to go. You think, ugh. For some of us, that would be fantastic because we love our mother-in-laws. But, it's a different spectrum, different scenario for each and every one of us. Maybe you're not married and you're like, I don't have one. Well, that's totally good too. But I want to talk about a brand new beginning as it relates to Peter and Peter following Jesus. Because last week we talked about Jesus coming to Peter's house, healing his mother-in-law, and healing a huge crowd of sick people. But this week we're going to finish this series, and I think this is really powerful because we're going to look at specifically in Luke 5, verses 1 through 11, Jesus shows up for a second time in Peter's life. Now, when you read Matthew and Mark, and you read about Jesus showing up in Peter's life, the very first time you read about that is when Jesus shows up at the Sea of Galilee and Peter's fishing, right? And Jesus borrows Peter's boat and all that. But it's interesting to look at Luke because Luke gives us a different perspective. And actually, I really like Luke because he blows out with a lot more details and context what's really happening. And so let's keep in mind that Jesus had been at Peter's house, I don't know how long ago, but he had been there probably at least a few days before, healed his mother-in-law, and healed a group of people, a boatload of people. And now Jesus shows up for the second time in Peter's life. And Jesus first showed up at his house. Now Jesus shows up at Peter's job, his profession. So it's one thing for Jesus to begin in our lives, in our home life, with our family. But then what happens when Jesus shows up in our work environment? And you're like, well, what if I'm just going to school right now? Well, what happens if Jesus showed up in your school life, in your job, as you're doing your job? And that's exactly what happened. Jesus intentionally came to Peter's profession, his job, as a fisherman, and he shows up at the end of Peter's workday. And in this scenario, Jesus is standing on the Sea of Galilee, and Peter and his partners, his brother Andrew, James, and John, they had been fishing all night, and they were on the edge of the Sea of Galilee, cleaning their nets. And Jesus asks Peter, may I borrow your boat? Because there's a massive crowd of people who want to hear Jesus. They're there to listen to Jesus teach. So Jesus borrows Peter's boat, sets out onto the Sea of Galilee, and it, like scientists tell us that it's a perfect way to talk to a big crowd because the water amplifies your voice, which is pretty cool actually when you think about it. So Jesus borrows Peter's boat and does the big teaching thing to the crowd. If you think about it, Peter, James, John, Andrew are on the edge, mending their nets, cleaning up, finishing up their long fishing night, morning now. The day's over and they hadn't caught anything. So Jesus finishes his teaching, comes back to the shore, and he tells Peter, go put your boat out into the deep and let your nets down. You'll get a great catch of fish. And Peter says to him, Lord, we fished all night and we caught nothing. That's in and of itself discouraging, right? If you think about it. You work hard all through the night. You got your fishing partners with you. You're doing everything you know to do. These are professional fish. This is their job. So they obviously are proficient. They know what they're doing. And they come back from a hard night of fishing with zero. No income, no fish, nothing to show for all of their hard work and their hours of sweat and labor. And the last thing they want to do after they're tired and they finish cleaning their nets and preparing them, the last thing they want to do is start over. But that's exactly what Jesus tells them. Go out into the deep, throw your nets in, and you'll catch a large group of fish. Peter says, okay, nevertheless at your word. So Peter does it. He puts his boat out, and he throws his net over, and he begins to catch a huge, massive haul of fish. So much so that his nets begin to break. Now that's bad. If you're a fisherman and your nets are starting to break, that's a bad thing, because now your profession, the tools that you use, it's like having a computer that like doesn't work, or a camera shooting YouTube that starts to get glitchy. Like that's a bad thing, right? So the nets start to break. Peter hails his partners, James and John. They bring their boat to help with this massive supernatural catch of fish. And it says as they do, their nets break and their boats begin to sink. So this is double bad. The nets are breaking, the boats are sinking, and you're a fisherman. If you think about it, what else are you going to do? Your profession, all of the tools that you use for your profession are becoming compromised. They're breaking, they're falling apart, they're ripping, and either you mend them or you repair it or something. But all of the things that Peter used to be a fisherman are now becoming broken and dysfunctional. Wait, stop just a second. We got a joke break. I love these joke breaks. Oh, this one's really good. So this one, and then I have like a brother-sister joke for you on this one. So what do you call a girl who's hanging off the side of a fishing boat? You call her Annette. That is so stupid. But Annette has a brother. And what do you call a man who's stuck in a hole? Phil. Annette and Phil. Oh my goodness, this is so bad. Okay, let's get back to the teaching because it'll get a lot better from here. So no wonder Peter's life literally gets turned inside out, upside down. It starts at his home with his family, healing the mother-in-law, and then all that huge crowd of, and then Jesus moves on to his profession. And so when you think about it, at the end of this, what else is Peter going to do? He falls at Jesus' feet and says, "Away from me, I'm a sinful man." And Jesus says to him, "Follow me and I will make you fishers of men." Well, what else is Peter going to do? The nets are broken. The boats are leaking. His mother-in-law is healed. His house has been overrun. So now what? I mean, in some respects, there's only one thing left to do. Like, let's follow Jesus because we see all the miraculous things that he does, and it's the adventure of a lifetime. And I think sometimes when things seem to be broken and dysfunctional, it could be an invitation. Jesus inviting you to have a new beginning with Jesus. So as we finish up this episode, I ask the question, what needs a new beginning in your life? And to that end, maybe ask yourself, what's broken? Because what's broken is oftentimes where Jesus launches into something supernatural, something glorious, an adventure of a lifetime. Thanks for watching, and I'm telling you that the series that we begin next week, you are going to totally love. We're going to celebrate February. Is it going to be about love? I don't know. You'll just have to watch and see.